Hi there, in this screencast I'm going to show you how to make a game state variable to control the flow of the game, just like we did in our XNA projects. First thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to move over into the blocks editor and I'm going to make a variable called game state. Alright, so I'm going to go to variables and I'm going to initialize a global variable to game state, and I'm going to set that equal to startup. Oops, wrong one. And that's text. So we'll use startup, running, and finish, kind of like what we did in our XNA games. Okay, so when the game state is in startup, we actually do not want we just want the kind of the runner running along in the background scenes or background skyline scrolling. So we don't want the car and truck coming across them until the user starts the game. So I know in the last screencast I told you to keep that car clock to be enabled. Well, in this screencast we're going to make it not be enabled and make the car and truck only start when the user taps on the screen to start the game. Okay, so when the game is in startup, the animation clock is going. Let's see, let's just make sure we have all our timers turned on and off, the appropriate ones. So the scrolling background clock would be going and the animation clock would be going. But we don't want the jump timer clock or the car clock running. All right, good. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is we want the user to tap to start the game. So, but that tap also controls the user jumping when the game is running. And we don't want, well, we basically want the tap to do two different things. If the game is in startup mode, we want it to start the game. So I need to basically drag another if statement, and I need to check to see what the value of the game state variable is. So this is a logic one since you're comparing text. So I'm going to say if get state equals startup, or get game state equals startup, then how does the game start? Well, the game starts when you turn on the car and the car clock so that the car and truck start coming across the screen. So, and what else do we need to do when the game is in startup and we start the cars moving across the screen? Well, we also need to set the game state variable to be running. So I'm going to do set, and then I'm going to do game state, and then I need to do set it to be running. And then I need to turn on the clock. So turn on the car clock. So set it enabled to be true. So set timer enabled to be true. Okay, so when the game is in running mode, that's when you want the user to be able to jump by tapping on the screen. So I'm going to take that away and temporarily, and I'm going to add an else if and an else, because we're going to have our game, we're going to have three game states, right? Startup, running, and finished. And we're going to do something different in each of them. So when the game is running, that's where you want the user to be able to jump. So I need to add the condition here. Oops. I want to say, okay, else if game state equals running, Okay, then when the user clicks on taps the screen, it starts the jump clock, the jumping sequence. All right, and then we'll get to what we're going to do when the game is in finished mode and a little bit later, probably in a later screencast. Okay, so what else are we going to need to do when the game starts? Well, I haven't added it yet, but we're gonna make this game pretty simple. We're not gonna make it count trucks and cars that the users jumped over. We're gonna just make your score be the time, how long you survived before being hit by a truck or a car. So what I need to do is I need to drag one more clock onto my screen, and I'm going to call it game time. And I'm going to set its interval to 100 so that it fires 10 times a second, because I'm going to have tenths of seconds. And now I'm going to go into, and I'm going to make sure that time is disabled when the game starts, and because I only want to enable it when the user taps to start the game. So now let me go to blocks, and I'm going to make a variable that is just going to be how the elapsed time since the game started. So I'm going to say, oops, drag the wrong one. Once again, I need to do initialize, and let's call it game time. And then I'm going to make it be 0. Okay, so now, and actually, you know what? Let's do format as decimal with 1 decimal point. So we'll do tenths of seconds. So if I go back to that variables, no, it was under math, I think. I'm going to go down and drag a format as decimal number with 1 decimal place. Okay, so that means when the user starts the game, we also need to turn on that timer. So I need to go down to, let's see, game time, and I'm going to turn on that clock. I know I keep saying timer, but I'm just used to saying that from Visual Studio. So I do set game time timer to be true. All right, so now what do I need to do? Well, I need to run the game time timer. So it's going to, let's see, I need to make the tick event for it. And then I'm going to, so I'm going to say when the game timer fires, what do I need to do? Well, I need to add 0.1 to what the time is. Oh yes, one other thing, I should make sure I reset the timer back to 0 when I start the game. So I'm going to do set, and then I need to do game time. Let's see, where is it? Jump count game time to be 0 with 1 decimal place. Okay, so now the user's just tapped to start the game. Now the game is in running mode, and we need to get the timer firing. So what happens every time the timer fires? Well, we add 0.1 to what the value of the game time variable is. Oops, wrong one. So I'll just duplicate one of those numbers. So I do 0.1, And then let me do a set variable. And that would be game time. And that would be game time again, get game time. Okay, now I want to display what the time is, and I'm just going to display it in the title bar of my screen. So that'll keep it nice and simple. So I'm going to go to set title, and then it just needs to be get global game time. Okay, that should do it. So what do we have so far? Well, we have an animated runner who can jump when the game is running. We have a car and truck that only start coming across the screen when the game is running, and they're traveling at different speeds to make things a little more challenging. And what else do we have? Well, we have a game timer that basically is keeping score of how the user's doing and how long they've survived while the game is running. And that's going to be their final score. Alright, so that's quite a bit, and in the next screencast we'll get into collisions and how to stop the game.